And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday, everyone, but more importantly, happy 420. Hope you guys are having a great day, coming at you at a wacky time this afternoon. I apologize for that. I really wish I was off on 420, but this is one of my busiest days of the week, and I got a crazy one at work later tonight, and I got to work this job too. So I'm working a double today on 420 day, which kind of sucks, but I'm here with you guys, and that never sucks. So hope you guys are having a good one. Welcome to your Winged Eagle podcast for April 20th, 2024. Got a fun one on tap tonight that's going to include our AEW AEW Dynasty predictions. We're going to do those here at the end. We're going to talk about Dynamite this week. We're going to talk about tonight's Double, Collision, and Rampage airing. That's going to be a big 3-hour block of wrestling. And then we roll right into tomorrow with a big card set for AEW Dynasty, which we will predict, talk about, break down as best as we can. We're also going to talk about some wrestling news, like the WWE releases that were announced yesterday or that we learned of yesterday. We've got some news on Vince McMahon and what he's been up to lately. We have some news on Drew McIntyre's contract. We've got news on Seth Rollins. Kenny Omega sitting playing video games has been very interesting the last couple of weeks. He offered some comments, I think, yesterday on Rossi Ogawa in his new promotion, and he was very critical of him. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about some good news coming out of AEW's talent roster with Ruby Soho announcing her pregnancy. We'll give them a little shout out and congrats there. We'll talk about what we're going to see this Monday on Raw, as we are going to crown a brand new Women's World Champion, as Rhea Ripley, of course, had to forfeit her title last Monday. And we will talk about last night's SmackDown. Do we have a new leader of the Bloodline or not? We'll talk about that, Solo's new role, and what this could mean for the future. We got the WWE draft coming up in a couple of weeks, I think next week actually. And WWE, as expected, unveiled last night brand new tag team championships for the current SmackDown tag team champions, Waller and Theory, and those belts are nice as hell. So that's kind of a general idea what we're going to get into today, but I wanted to give myself enough time to be up here for a good 2 hours while I can still head off to work and have a wild one there. And then I'm home for a couple of days to watch Dynasty, to be with you guys on Monday night for the Raw review as well. And I'm ready for a break, man. It's been a crazy week. Hope you guys are having a great one. I'm going to go to the chat in just a second and say hello to everybody. Before I do that, a couple of quick programming notes. Like I said, tomorrow night, we're going to be here doing a live watch-along of AEW Dynasty. We're going to be doing a watch party, and we'll stick around for a recap after the show. Looking forward to this one. I think I'm actually going to purchase it on YouTube. I've bought every single AEW pay-per-view on Bleacher Report up until this point. But now that they are available on YouTube, I think I'm going to give that a shot for tomorrow. So we will be up here watching Dynasty tomorrow. We will go live about 15 minutes before the main card starts. And also another video you guys can check out that was released yesterday. We would have spoken about this today, but I made a whole separate mic drop video about where WrestleMania 41 might be located next year. We all thought it was going to be Minnesota. Now all of a sudden it sounds like Vegas is back, re-emerging as a potential front runner. We talked about those two potential cities, and we broke down a lot of the other cities that WWE could be hitting up in the future, and taking into consideration what Nick Khan said about WrestleMania no longer being in cold Northeast cities where weather is a factor, and also the possibility of maybe moving WrestleMania to March or to May to get it away from opening day of baseball and Final Fours and things like that. So we kind of broke down a lot of those options and possibilities yesterday here on the channel. So make sure you check out that video this weekend if you have not yet already. But today, we're going to get into all sorts of stuff. We're going to kind of speak in, general terms, in terms of like last Wednesday's Dynamite. We're going to talk about the key points. I didn't watch the whole show. I watched like 70% of the show. Same goes for, SmackDown last night as well. Just want to talk about the basics, what we saw and what we're looking like heading into Backlash and Dynasty, and a pretty fun week of wrestling coming up because Monday we're going to crown a new champion on Raw. Moxley has challenged Powerhouse Hobbs on Wednesday's Dynamite. Plus, we got 3 hours of wrestling tonight from AEW. If you're a wrestling fan, you've definitely lived in worse time periods. That's for sure. Things are pretty damn swell right now. So, here we go. Happy Saturday, happy weekend, happy Wingy Day. Hope you guys are having a good one. Let me go over here to the chat, say hello to the folks that are here. Oops, I just closed out of that. My bad. Closed out of my whole damn chat. I wanted to say hi to you guys, and now I can't see it. There you are. You're back. I see you. First thing you guys could do for me, if you don't mind, smash the thumbs up button. Please give this video a like. Would like to get up to 200 likes if possible. Would be a great goal on this video. And if you are not a subscriber, please consider clicking the subscribe button if you like what you see and hear. Would love if you stuck around. We rode a great algorithm wave for about 6 months there, and the spigot has turned off. We've literally gained no subscribers in about a week. Like literally none after, getting 100 to 200 a week for some reason. Just the algorithm waves. It comes and goes. We're currently in a dead spot. We'll ride it again. We'll ride it on to another, good, strong 5,000 plus subs in a short amount of time. That just goes ups and downs on this channel. So we're currently in a lull. So if you are watching and you're not subscribed, please, I would love it if you would stick around. Memberships are open, super chats are open, all that good stuff as usual. Thank you so much for being here and welcome. Good to see Jay Lambo, Cherokee George. We got channel members Tatanani, Isaac, Spartan Sprinkles as well, hitting us up early. JJ Leg, Brandon McNeil, and Deshaun are the early channel members I see in here. I know I'm coming up at a weird time, guys. Thank you for your cooperation and patience and support today. Also, we got Nick B, we got Rodrigo, Daniel Berry Sports, we got Steve Jacobson. Hey, we got Mick Brook. We have... Tantalizing. Tony sent me here. That's why I'm here. Okay, good. Well, thanks, whoever Tony is. Appreciate that. Thanks, Tony, for hooking us up. We got Dro. We got Ben. We got DJ. Crazy J. Doug Unfunny. Robert. Some of the first early names I see in the chat here. Welcome, everyone. Thanks again, as always, for being here on the Saturday podcast. So we should probably start getting into what we're going to discuss today because we don't have all damn night. And you guys have 3 more hours of wrestling to watch after me if you're interested in Collision and Rampage. And we got some fun matches on tap for that. But first, let's get into some wrestling news. And I think we need to address the WWE releases that we learned of yesterday. Now, WWE no longer publicly announces releases. So none of this was on the website or anything like that. This was mostly coming from talent who were tweeting confirmation of these releases. And there was 5 specific names that were let go. The top one was Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal, former WWE champion, officially gone from WWE. Also Veer. So let the coming jokes, run wild. I guess he got his full release, didn't he? So Veer is also gone. So is Sangha, Zion Quinn, and another sad one, Xia Li. Now, I didn't care much about Veer. I had nothing against those guys. Just nothing was hitting right. They just weren't doing anything. WWE wasn't doing anything with them. They ran 2.5 years of Veer is coming vignettes only for him to not do dick once he got there. Things did not pan out for a lot of these talents for whatever reason. But I think the one I'm the most bummed about is actually Xia Li. I had really high hopes for her. I used to talk very highly of her here on the channel whenever we would see her on TV. I really liked her vibe. She was very small and short, but man, she was strong. I was always really impressed with her strength, her striking abilities. I think she was the first Chinese wrestler that WWE had signed, I think, ever or something like that. They made a big deal about that. I did like some of the comic book-like presentation they were doing with, some of those vignettes and stuff for her, trying to, figure out some things to do, kind of making her a superhero warrior type of character. She had the crazy entrance with the lightning bolts coming out of her fingers. I was only somewhat okay with that. That was very cool visually, but I thought as a worker, she could have been, like, if it was me, I would have booked her like ECW Taz, just a fucking buzzsaw that just runs through everybody, or, give her like an Asuka-like winning streak, where she just tears through everybody for 1.5 years and is undefeated. And I thought that it wouldn't be hard. I thought she would be a can't miss. She's got the look, she's got the strength, she's got the ability. I think she had it all, so whatever happened, it just did not pan out. They never got behind her, knew what to do with her, whatever the case may be, and now she is released. That's a bummer. She was one that I just immediately had my eye on, and I'm like, oh, she's going to be a big deal. Not everybody is a big deal, and I was way wrong on that one. So all the best to everybody who was released yesterday. Hopefully this is it. Luckily, it doesn't sound like we've gotten like 30 names. I was waiting for some more, and it sounds like this might be it, unless they release a few more over the course of the weekend here. If you guys see any more releases, as we're talking here, please let us know in the chat. But it sounds like just a small little group of about 5 names got let go. Didn't see Dexter Loomis's name on there. Some of those other talents, kind of not doing much that might be on the chopping block. Glad this was kind of a smaller batch of releases and not a massive one like we have seen in the past. In terms of Jinder Mahal, though, I can't say that one is surprising or shocking. I mean, what was he really offering to WWE at this point? I know he's been in NXT a little bit, hanging around there, been a big help. I thought could be there someone who could help maybe, guide younger talent, potentially a coach, offer his knowledge, expertise, whatever. But WWE just decided to let him go. Now, he did tweet out yesterday, "I quit, Maharaja out, free agent in 90 days. So he did not quit. He was released, because if he quit, well, I guess he'd have a 90-day no compete anyway. But if you just walk out on your contract, you'd probably have longer than 90 days. You'd probably have to sit the whole damn thing out. So he was released. He did tweet that he's going to be a free agent in 90 days. And with a guy like Jinder, he is one talent that I would not want to see in AEW, just because I think Tony Khan needs to try to resist the urge of doing what TNA did and just signing everybody that got released from WWE. AEW is not that bad as TNA used to be, but if they were to pick up Jinder Mahal, they might be. And this is nothing against Jinder. I'm thinking of Jinder along the lines of where I don't think he'd benefit being in AEW. I don't think it would benefit him to be in AEW. Where Jinder, I think, can really make his mark is on the indies, and the price he can demand on the indies, he should do very well as a former WWE champion. The price tag he could name for himself, plus being able to do maybe the Drew McIntyre or the Cody thing, to leave and not necessarily to come back to WWE, but I just think he could find success just taking independent bookings, where if he signed with AEW, he's just going to be stuck right back in a contract again where he's not doing anything. And he's showing up to TV, just hanging out and catering all day and going home. And, they might use him at least at first, because Jinder was a part of, I think, like a tweeting rampage that Tony Khan went on a couple of months ago, right? Where he was talking about something along the lines of Jinder and the ratings. I forgot what it was. A man who hasn't won a match in 2 years is headlining their show. Whatever Tony Khan, whatever was up his ass that day, it had something to do with Jinder. Hook got involved in that too, right? So you could theoretically bring Jinder in to do the Hook match, but that would be fun for 1 week of TV. But if I'm Jinder Mahal, I'm not locking myself into another contract. I think he could do well on the independents, just taking independent bookings and having total and complete freedom to do whatever he wants. And that is what I would do if I was Jinder Mahal. Unless Tony Khan is dumb enough to throw a shit ton of money at this guy where he can't turn it down. Well, shit, he can pay me $1 million a year to stick my thumb up my ass? Okay. Whatever, I guess so. But I think Jinder could have more fun on the indies. And I think financially he'd do just fine. Indies are thriving right now. A lot of guys like Matt Cardona, by the way, get well soon to Matt Cardona, who did undergo some surgery himself recently. And guys like that who've been able to find a very healthy and lucrative career on the indie circuit, taking independent bookings. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, especially in today's day and age of wrestling, where things are pretty hot right now. Wrestling is no longer embarrassing to be a fan of, at least for the time being anyway, until it, goes through another dry spell or whatnot. So I'm personally, as someone who just likes to see the best for talent, whatever they decide for themselves and their family, ultimately, I'm always going to support. But I feel like from a fan's perspective, Jinder, to me, would be way more interesting hitting the indies, various bookings around, around the country, around the world, than he would signing with AEW and occasionally being used on Rampage or Collision or Dynamite. Just wouldn't be any fun, and I wouldn't see any success for him there, really, in the long run, because he might come in and they might do some stuff with him right at first, but then, as we've seen a lot in AEW, that tends to die down. You don't have to look any further than Miro or a few other examples like that in that company to know that maybe that's not the best place for me. And this is coming from an AEW fan who's somebody who's going to gladly slap down $50 to watch what I'm sure will be a spectacular Dynasty tomorrow. But that doesn't mean they don't have their problems. And if I'm Jinder Mahal, I'm staying away from them, is what I would do. But all the best to all of the released talent in whatever their futures may hold. And hopefully, I think this will be the end of the releases and we will not hear any more coming up this weekend. So fingers crossed. Speaking of WWE talent who may or may not be leaving or sticking around, Drew McIntyre's contract is still, I guess, unresolved, but nobody is too concerned with McIntyre bouncing. At least as a fan, I'm not. I love Drew McIntyre. I think it would be foolish of WWE to let him go. I don't see what Drew could really do in AEW that would, professionally satisfy him any more than WWE, especially considering he is one of their top world title contenders. And I guess Dave Meltzer feels the same. In the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave wrote this, and I quote, "McIntyre's deal expires in late May. It actually expired time-wise at the end of 2023, but they tacked on several months due to time off for injury. Those in WWE expect he's signing, noting, seeing as it," this is weirdly written. "Those in WWE expect he's signing, seeing it as enough of a given he's been advertised on shows post-contract expiration. The feeling was that while he had talked of taking time off, if not creatively fulfilled, that he very much is now and is seen as one of the company's top full-time wrestlers with Rhodes and Rollins. There is also the belief WWE talent is less likely now to opt for AEW." So this is Dave being Dave. That last sentence there is just Dave speculating. I mean, this is Dave observing the same shit we're observing. Dave says, "There is also the belief that WWE talent is less likely now to opt for AEW. I think that's kind of obvious. Granted, AEW did land 3 giant free agents in Okada and Mercedes and Will Ospreay. 3 people, I guess, that were just afraid of the grind. I guess just can't have that grind. Got to stay away from that. So WWE lucked out not getting Ospreay. Phew, what a bullet they dodged there. I'd hate to have that guy on their roster, man. But granted that AEW did land 3 free agents that WWE all made offers to. For the most part, Dave didn't hear this from anybody. He didn't speak to a WWE official or something like that. This is Dave just looking at the landscape and saying, yeah, if you're in WWE right now and your contract is coming up and you see what WWE is doing, and then you look over there, provided you're not doing nothing in WWE, if you're on TV and you're featured on WWE regularly and you, for the most part, are on your respective brand most every week, that's not the case in AEW. You can go 3 or 4 weeks at a time without being on a Dynamite or a Rampage or a Collision. So I feel like that's just the landscape of wrestling right now. WWE is crazy white hot. They are doing big business. I think you could argue that globally they're bigger than they've ever been. Even in the Attitude Era and the crazy days of the Rock and Wrestling, Hogan era, Stone Cold Steve Austin, DX, Undertaker, those 80s and 90s booms, WWE is globally expanded now to where I think overall their reach is even greater than that. And that's crazy. So, if you're a talent, everybody's got different personal, life situation. So for some talent, AEW might be best for them, like it was for Ospreay. So he could keep his family located, where he didn't have to uproot them or move them. He made the personal decision for his family. It worked out best for them. But if you're a professional and you're already on top of the mountain in WWE, you've got a WWE name, that they own, why would Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins leave WWE and go to AEW? That would be fucking ridiculous. Contracts are up or not, I can't see either one of them ever leaving. And Drew McIntyre might have been one that was kind of iffy there for a little while, but since Vince's departure and Triple H has taken over and everything McIntyre has done this year with the feud with Rollins, the great Punk trolling that feud, what he did at WrestleMania, winning the belt and dropping it, I think McIntyre has got a great spot in the company that's going to have him guaranteed a great match at SummerSlam, and I feel like his bread is more buttered in WWE. And as a fan, I'm with WWE on this. I'm not too worried about Drew McIntyre saying, nope, psych, I'm actually going to go to AEW. That would really surprise me if that happened. So I feel like McIntyre's sticking around. And I also feel like, WWE talent is less likely when their contract is up to make the jump because they can just see. They can see what it has done for other people who have made that jump that they thought, oh, the grass is going to be greener. Maybe for some it was, or maybe the grass is the same, or maybe they're doing it for other personal fulfillments, like Adam Copeland going out there and just having the time of his life. He's not too concerned, that WWE packs in more people into their arenas than AEW does. He's working for a professional wrestling company on cable TV with a roster full of good talent, and that's what he's happy doing. He's already done the big WrestleManias and the 80,000 stadiums and the main events and the World Championships and the Hall of Fames. He's done all that. Now he wants to kind of go out with a bang. Danielson's doing the same thing. I like that competitive fire and that love, that passion for what you do that guys like Danielson and Adam Copeland have. And I respect that immensely, but I'm just, if I put myself in the shoes of any specific talent and say, okay, let's say their contract is coming up. I'm not leaving. Say I'm Becky Lynch. I'm not leaving. If I'm Seth, I'm not leaving. Even if you've had some frustrations with the company and there's things that have happened that you haven't loved. I know Becky has had some frustrations, left off pay-per-views, issues with Charlotte or whatever. For the most part, they are going to go down in history as, top tier Hall of Fame, legendary, statue-worthy wrestlers from this era, to throw all that away just to go work somewhere else. If that's the personal decision they make, fine. It just doesn't feel very likely from where we sit right now. And I think Dave Meltzer was simply making that same observation. So while AEW is still going to be, a viable option for a lot of people, if you're already in WWE working for the hottest act in town and you have a good spot, what are they going to offer you other than money and a lighter schedule that would make that place more attractive? You know what I mean? So I feel like that's just Dave being Captain Obvious there is all. So we'll see when McIntyre finally inks up a new deal. I am not too concerned about him taking off. I think he's going to have a great summer, feud with Punk coming up, probably a match at SummerSlam, and probably he will find his way back to that World Championship. I would not be surprised at all. So we will see what happens with that whole situation. I want to say hi to Population 420. Thanks for being here, man. Good to see you. Happy 420. Acknowledge good mic work commentaries. Thank you so much for that, my friend. Very nice of you. Let me refresh that. There we go. All right, now I can see everybody. Ads turned. Did I turn off ads? I don't know if I did. I don't think the ads are turned off for this. I have no idea. I try to turn them off for watch-alongs, but I don't know what's going on here. I think they're on. Anyway, let's talk about our next order of business here on the news, and that is what Vince McMahon has been up to. Our old friend, old man perverted Vince, who was up Schitt's Creek without a paddle with this fucking lawsuit. But according to people close to him, he doesn't seem too concerned. CNBC had a report on what Vince has been doing lately that was dropped this week. And I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to tell you a few things that it said in there. And in that report, it noted that Vince McMahon has had no contact with any of the company leaders or Triple H or Stephanie McMahon or Nick Khan regarding any company matters at all. So in terms of company matters, he's not in contact with them at all. I don't know what kind of a personal relationship he currently has with Stephanie or Triple H or how all of that is working. I have no idea. It's got to be weird. But in terms of, being involved in the company, sounds like that's largely non-existent, which is what I've believed the whole time ever since, that merger happened and they pushed him out. He's no longer in the position where he can do whatever he wants. And now he doesn't have the power that he once did. And once that power is taken away from him and they can muscle him out, they will, and they did. So Vince is gone. Those final 8 million shares he owns are up for sale. Once they're sold, he done. However, it was noted in the report that he has been in contact with John Cena and The Rock. So that doesn't really surprise me. I know those guys are kind of sticking by him. John Cena had those idiotic comments not long ago, how Vince has got a hill to climb. I'm like, he's got more than a hill to climb, buddy. Did you not read? How can Rock and John Cena read those text messages and not want to disown that motherfucker? I just cannot believe that. So anyway, he still has contract with Rock and Cena, probably Brock too, and any other wrestlers that he had a close relationship with, or he made a lot of money for, or helped make him a lot of money. There is always going to be an undying loyalty there between Vince and his top guys. So Rock and Cena, even though I think it's gross that they even talk to the old fucker, I'm not surprised. I kind of understand. The report notes that he is kind of Vince McMahon, basically, according to friends, appears completely unconcerned about the charges in this lawsuit and assuming that he's just going to be able to settle this out of court. And I don't know if that's him being delusional, like if he actually really thinks this, or if he's just trying to, a lot of this could be leaks from his end to try to get narratives out there about what he's doing, what his mindset is and whatnot. But from everything we've heard from Janelle Grant's side and her attorneys and her lawyers, they have no intention of settling this. That's not what this is about. This is not a cash grab. They fully intend for this to go to court and for everything to come out. That is what their intent and their goal is here. So if Vince really thinks that he's going to be able to settle this out of court, I think he's just probably bullshitting himself, because it doesn't sound like, from anything we've heard from Janelle Grant's side so far, that they have any intent on doing that unless something changes. So if we do hear about some crazy settlement, I would definitely like to know what changed there. So Vince McMahon living life and enjoying life, unconcerned about these charges, either makes him a fucking sociopath, well, which he is, or delusional, well, which he also is. Okay, so he's already those things, but he's a delusional sociopath, fucking disgusting pervert, who actually does not seem remorseful, concerned at all about these charges, feels like she's the one in the wrong, and all these disgusting things laid out, in the lawsuit are complete fabrications. I'm like, well, I guess we will find out in court, won't we? Because it sounds like it's going to be getting that far. But the report did say that apparently Vince is enjoying life. And if he is so delusional that he actually believes that nothing's going to come of these charges, then ignorance is bliss. So I can understand Vince might be having the time of his life right now, or he might just be, BSing himself just to try to keep himself happy. The fact that he's out of his own company right now without, any influence in pro wrestling, and he's out enjoying life, taking vacations. Recently went to Italy, and in one of the crazier stories, on a recent trip home from the Turks and Caicos Islands, Vince McMahon brought home with him like 6 kittens and a puppy to be adopted by his friends. I'm sorry, what? What? That sentence. Is the old man losing his mind? Like, is Vince so fucking out of his mind that he's down there in the Caicos Islands just wrangling up kitties? Let's take all them home. Damn, cute kittens. Good shit. I'm going to go give them to all my friends. You know how many fucking pets and animals and lonely, sick, starving animals are on the streets, in shelters, needing adoption right here, probably in Vince's own fucking neighborhood? He could probably go 1 mile down the road to his local animal shelter and rescue 7 animals from there. And now he's flying home, from animals already living in paradise. I don't know. And apparently bringing these animals home to give out as gifts to be adopted by what if your friend doesn't want one? I don't want a cat, dude. You keep it. So just the image of Vince McMahon flying on his private jet with a bunch of fucking cats running around his plane is hilarious to me. And hearing that story doesn't tell me Vince is enjoying life. It tells me Vince is losing his fucking mind. Because what about Vince? Have we ever known that does that compute to you guys? Like, knowing what we've always known about Vince, this story about the cats, what? I don't understand. Is Vince bringing these animals home to torture them? I don't know what he's doing, but I just laughed so hard at that. I mean, I'm glad that Vince is finding joy and happiness in a cute little fuzzy animal, but knowing what Vince does in his personal time, and how he used his company basically as his own sick, perverted playground, to prey and manipulate, women. And all of a sudden now he's like, he's turning into a big softy who likes kitties. Go fuck yourself, Vince McMahon. Who are you kidding? Funny story, interesting stuff there. Vince McMahon apparently just going on about his life with all of his money. He's got millions and millions of dollars. He can never spend it all, even if he tried. We'll see, how long that happiness lasts once, court proceedings does start, or, if he's going to pull, what his orange sack of shit rotting pumpkin friend is doing and trying to delay everything, delay the inevitable, delay whatever I could do, to push this up so far that I'm just too fucking old to defend myself. It's kind of what Jimmy Snuka did. So we'll see, what the future holds for Vince. But, the fact that this hasn't even gone to court yet, and we haven't even heard the grisly details that are still to be released, and everything that's probably going to be hashed out in court, and how much uglier this is all likely to get before it's over. WWE, it's probably in their best interest too, to maybe hope that this takes a little while. That way they can take the time to continue to distance themselves from Vince, move away from, what he brought to the company and his fingerprints, and get as far away from him as possible before, the hammer drops and all of that. So we will see, but I still don't believe for a moment that that Vince McMahon is out of the woods by any means. I think he's got, what Cena said, he's got a hill to climb. On the possibility, here's another crazy fucking thing, on the possibility of Vince McMahon owning his own promotion. Meltzer kind of speculated about that too. Well, Vince could branch off and start his own promotion, but he's got like a year-long no-compete, so he wouldn't even be able to do this until 2025. But Vince McMahon is like 80. Time is going to get him. I know Vince McMahon is a freak of nature. I know Vince McMahon plans on living into his mid-200s, but that's not going to happen. He's not going to be around forever. He's already old as fuck. This country's tired of old people. Our two presidential candidates are 160 years old each. You got Vince McMahon, super duper old, and the idea of him trying to create a wrestling company to compete with WWE and AEW, no, not happening. I don't even think, like, the fact that that's brought up, I just don't believe for a minute that this is anything other than Dave speculating, because is this something Vince would even tell? How could he even start a company? Who would he launch it with? Brock Lesnar and Tessa Blanchard? I mean, I don't even know what he would do. So Vince McMahon starting his own company is an absolute impossibility. That I'm 100% sure of. It's not going to happen. So he's got enough shit to worry about right now than trying to recreate at 80 years old another WWE. No, the WVE, the World Vince Federation, WVF, World Vince Federation. Nope, not happening. Not happening. So Vince sounds like to me that he's going crazy. Good. He deserves it. I want to wish the very best to Seth Rollins, who Becky Lynch revealed on, I guess she's doing a book tour. I think she did an interview over in Ireland, and revealed that Seth Rollins had surgery last week to repair a torn meniscus. So that was the injury that he had suffered earlier on in the year that he worked through and worked WrestleMania. The dude is a fucking warrior. I've always had Rollins' back. I've always appreciated Rollins as a worker. He's been one of my favorites over the last several years, but he has had periods of, his ring work being superb, but, his character, promo, things like that, people have criticized over the years. Maybe he's too boring or this and that. What he's been doing in the last couple of years, I think, has been highly entertaining. So that's really, I think, improved. Some people don't like his current character. They think it's ridiculous and stupid, but to me, it's better than what it was. But in terms of him as a professional in-the-ring wrestler, I'm not sure if there's too many more guys in the business that I respect more right now. I mean, that was tremendous for him to go through that. It must have been difficult as all hell to work through that all through WrestleMania season, even having that match, I think, on Raw before Mania, then working double duty at Mania, losing twice at WrestleMania, all just for the good of the business, for the good of making Cody. A lot of respect. You could see it was, there was definitely something that felt a little bit real about that Rollins and McIntyre match, especially after McIntyre won, before Punk attacked him. And there was that little moment there with Rollins and McIntyre. Rollins has got the black eye, and, you could see he's crying, like he's visibly upset. And, in his mind, he must have, been knowing that, hey, I'm going to be on the shelf for a little while. And then the next night, later on that night, still coming back in the ring, getting in there to take that Superman punch from Roman to, to help Cody win there, and just being there for him and being on the outside of the ring, watching Cody have his moment after you lost on Saturday, lost your championship on Sunday. You got a bum knee, you couldn't, but yet you were still standing tall, even though he was on the ground in pain, in tears, as a 2-time WrestleMania 40 loser. I think he walked taller than almost anybody else that night, just because of the sacrifice he made, how hard he worked, working through that injury, and doing it in the most unselfish way possible. And I'm glad that Cody thanked him, because he owed him a big one there. And with Rollins now, we've talked about Rollins a lot over the last couple of months, and I've had some ideas and pitches for Seth Rollins going into the rest of this year and into next year. And now that Rollins is on the shelf for a little while, a couple of months while he recovers from this injury, that time off might actually be a good thing. You can bring him back, and I would try my best to try to keep Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins separated for a while. I would keep them on separate brands, draft them in different places in the draft coming up next week, and then try to figure out a way to get them in the ring at WrestleMania 41. Now, it still depends on Rock and what he's going to do. Rock being at WrestleMania next year seems like a given. Who is he going to face? Is it going to be Cody, or is it going to be Roman Reigns? Rock gave Cody that thing on Monday, insinuated that there's definitely going to be a future bout between these two. That might happen before WrestleMania, allowing Roman and Rock to work WrestleMania. We don't even know yet, but regardless of what happens, I'm kind of hoping that Rollins and Cody can wrestle for the championship next year. And I've always said the next time Rollins and Cody get in the ring together, Rollins needs to get that win back for those 3 losses that he suffered to Cody when Cody came in. And what better way to get that win back than to win a championship as well? And that could be a fun, maybe night 1 main event if Cody remains champion all year, and then Seth Rollins wins the Rumble, and then Rollins can challenge his good friend Cody. Hey, you beat me 3 times when you got in here. Yeah, I owe you one. And now you've got that title, and that's going to be my ultimate redemption, to say not only, do I know that I can beat you, but I'm going to prove it to myself, and I'm going to, take your championship. And I'm fine with a babyface match. They can make it heel and face if they want, but if they want to do a match like that, built on, mutual respect, I'm perfectly fine with that, given the history between Cody and Seth Rollins. And for Seth to beat Cody and win the title, I think would be nice. And that would be a good balance. Rock and Roman Reigns night 2, Cody and Seth night 1. I'd be perfectly fine with that if that's what they set up next year for WrestleMania 41, which will hopefully be in Vegas, so I can go and hang out with you guys. We will see. But Rollins, wish him the absolute best in his recovery. I did not see or read how long they expect him to be out. But you would think SummerSlam might be the latest we would see Seth Rollins back. Same goes for Rhea Ripley. I think we have Charlotte about to be kind of healthy as well. And who else is on the shelf with an injury right now that might be coming back soon? So we've got some people coming back. I mean, we got some people hurt, right? Oh, CM Punk. So we could get CM Punk, Charlotte, Rhea Ripley, Rollins, all kind of coming back around the same time. That's going to be a huge boost, and looking forward to that. Rodrigo, appreciate the $2. Trump may not have been interviewed about Vince allegation. I don't know if they've ever asked him about that. He's got his own allegations. He's got his own 91 felonies. Those guys are 2 peas in a pod right there. Both of them with all sorts of criminal shit going on. It's bad. It's even worse, I think, for the former Prez. Let's talk about Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega's been great lately. He's been chilling out, playing video games, recovering from diverticulitis. And I think it was last week he offered some comments on Brawl Out and got into detail about some things that we didn't really know about. And he did this all just while playing video games. People are commenting in his chat stream or whatever, and he's, offering up these comments about various subjects. Well, he also spoke about, yesterday we had some comments come out where he was asked about Rossi Ogawa. Now, Rossi had left Stardom. They fired him over concerns of trying to poach talent, steal talent, things like that. And he's going to be starting his own company that's going to be apparently having a working relationship with WWE, because Julia was shown on NXT. There's been a lot of rumors of her coming in, and she's also going to be a big part of this Marigold promotion as well. So Rossi Ogawa is not very well liked, apparently, and I am not that dialed into the Joshi drama. So, if any of you are knowledgeable about this, please feel free to elaborate more in the chat. But there's always been some incidents of bullying and fucked up behind the scenes stuff that's been going on in Stardom, and even Hana Kimura's suicide and just lots of kind of controversy and kind of gross, kind of fucked up stories and whatnot. And when Omega was asked about it, he said this, and I've got these transcripts here, and I quote, he said, "From someone who lived it, breathed it, who has very close friends in the industry, I don't mean necessarily wrestling industry, I mean like the government issued press and the information that they know, I'm just going to leave it at that. I would say don't be so quick to listen to praise for that individual, because someday, I'm not sure when it will be, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday people will know the truth. What they do with that truth, I don't know. Will they share it? Maybe, but a lot of the higher ups in Japan, they know exactly what business he's up to and what he's been up to for decades. That's all I got to say." Someone brought up Rossi being an E-drone, and he said, I quote, "I don't care about Rossi being an E-drone. I mean, whatever, it's no big deal." That's not even the tip of the iceberg. Guys, you just freaking wait. When it finally comes out, there are a lot of people who refuse to work with him for the very same reason. Some of those people, even in WWE, some of those are in AEW. They have a very good reason. It's not just like, yeah, I decided to wake up and not like this guy. If you want to know, sort of along the lines they tread amongst, the dude just flat out said, "Hey, we're looking for girls from like ages 13 to 21 that don't have a boyfriend and aren't married. We already know he puts underage girls in very revealing swimsuit calendars and books." This I was completely unaware of. "And I wish that's all he did. Let's put it that way. I don't have any sort of video evidence. I just have the good word of people that are very close. I'm outside of it. If those people feel like commenting or saying something, whatever. For now, I'll say that people going to Marigold, good luck. I hope you have a great time. I hope it works out for you. For me, I would be very hesitant. That's it. That's all. My only comment, and I'm just going to say, I'm with Asuka. That's it. I'm with Asuka. Always have been. We're bros. She's got her reasons, and it's probably the same ones as mine." So sounds like Omega is very much aware of some of the unflattering behavior by Rossi. But like I said, I'm not dialed into that drama. So just reading this and hearing this stuff from Omega, when Omega has painted you as a piece of shit, you really must be one, because Omega's about as wholesome as they come. So, that'll be interesting to see, if that relationship that apparently is going to exist between his new group and WWE, hopefully the association with WWE, any of the shady and sketchy shit he has done before won't be present in this new promotion. I guess that's the best we can hope for there. But I am really kind of enjoying this Kenny Omega playing video games and talking thing. He should make a whole YouTube show just doing that and just answering questions, because that's awesome. So he's given some interesting insight on not only, Brawl Out, but now this Rossi situation. And yeah, we'll keep our eye on that. Sounds like a mess that I'm glad I'm not involved in. Speaking of AEW, we have congratulations to offer to Ruby Soho and Angelo Parker, whose real life relationship has spilled over into storyline in recent months on AEW. And at the conclusion of Rampage that was taped this past Wednesday after Dynamite, Ruby Soho, I guess, revealed to Angelo in the middle of the ring that she is pregnant. So apparently the pregnancy is legit. The relationship is legit. And it sounds like her informing him of being pregnant in the ring is also legit. I guess that legitimately is the first time he heard about that. So they shared a big kiss and a big hug. Crowd applauded. Happy for them. All the best to Ruby. I mean, I'm very, very happy for her, but now that means we're not going to see her for a year. So she is off now to have a baby. And if she decides to return to wrestling, we don't even know. You know, she might want to take a little bit more time to just get used to being a mom first before she comes back. You know, we haven't seen Timello back yet. I'm not sure when we will. So, you know, as happy as that made me to hear for them and the happy couple, I'm like, hopefully we get to see Ruby Soho one day again. And unfortunately, that day is going to be for quite a while because pregnancy takes 9 months. And then, you know, then you got to be a mom for a while and recover, get back into ring shape. That whole process could be, you know, up to 2 years if she really wants to take her time, or if she maybe perhaps decides not to come back at all. Just depends on what her personal life plans and goals are. All the best to Ruby and Angelo, with the little one showing up. He's probably going to pop out with tats and ready to wrestle. I can't wait. Happy for him both. That pretty much covers kind of the news that I wanted to get into today. Just a couple of the stories on Vince McMahon. Those WWE releases were a big deal, and wanted to show love to Seth Rollins. Dude was a warrior over WrestleMania weekend. The Kenny Omega comments were interesting, and of course, Ruby Soho with a bun in the oven. We need to now transition to WWE, and then we'll backtrack and we'll knock out the Dynasty predictions. I want to talk briefly about this Monday's Raw. Now, of course, this past week on Raw, we saw the very devastating news that Rhea Ripley had to forfeit the Raw or the WWE World Women's Championship. I still don't really know the name of that belt. The belt that Rhea carries had to be forfeited because she did suffer a freak injury. It was to her shoulder and collarbone, I guess, when she went into the wall the week before in that brawl with Liv Morgan. Now, like we talked about in the Raw review, you know, as devastating as injuries can be, especially for a talent that is as hot as Rhea Ripley and as over as she is, man, that really worked out perfect that the injury took place in a brawl with Liv Morgan, who was knocked out of action for about a year due to Rhea Ripley. So it was sewn perfectly into that storyline, and it was, you know, kind of like a happy accident. Sounds like Rhea Ripley is still unsure if whether or not she will require surgery on that shoulder. I still think they're trying to figure that out, but it sounds like her recovery time is only going to be about 3 months or so. So it sounds like she should be back in time for SummerSlam. So that's good news. Also, WWE and Liv Morgan really leaning into the fact that Liv is the one that caused this. Liv is now trolling Rhea Ripley, just like Drew McIntyre has been trolling CM Punk. And they announced on Monday night that we would be crowning a new World Women's Champion the following week, this coming Monday, but they didn't really tell us how. Well, last night on SmackDown, they revealed in a commercial that on Raw this Monday, the new women's champion will be crowned via a battle royal. So there's going to be a battle royal on Raw. The winner is going to be the new champion. What that tells me is that it's going to be Liv Morgan. It has to be Liv Morgan. It has to be. I want it to be. That would make the most sense right now. Have Liv carry the title, be a little asshole troll for 3 months, and then have Ripley come back and murder her. That is what I would do. And I think that's what they are going to do, because in my mind, if WWE had anybody else in mind to win the title other than Liv Morgan, they wouldn't do a battle royal. They would do one of those stupid things where they either maybe do a short tournament, or they'll do like 2 triple threat matches, and then the winner of those 2 triple threat matches face the next week. They would do something like that to get, you know, more women involved, multiple matches, and then delay it 1 more week and crown it there, or crown your new champion at Backlash. The fact that they're trying to get this done so quick, all signs point to Liv Morgan to me. Some people have Nia Jax on their radar. Sure, Nia Jax normally would be on my radar. She might be the first person I would think is the most likely one to win this championship. And she would be if it weren't for Liv Morgan's involvement in this storyline. Now, I would just make Liv Morgan the champion. I would make Liv the champion, give her a little run. Honestly, it might be the only run she's ever going to get again in her career. I think WWE's women's division and roster is way too strong for someone like Liv to succeed long-term as a main eventer. I like Liv a lot. I think she's great. But, you know, when it comes to the Biancas and the Charlottes and the of the world in WWE, I think that, they're going to be the ones dominating on top the most. So Liv, you got an opportunity here to give her another run with the title because she has been world champion before. She knocked off Ronda Rousey, right? Didn't she? I think. And to win that title with the Money in the Bank, do I have that right or am I misremembering something? But she's been champion before, but this time I think will be a lot more fun, and it might give her an opportunity, to kind of get over as this heel, to where maybe when Ripley comes back and wins the title back, that Liv will have established herself as a main eventer now, to where that won't be her final title run or title shot. That's the best she can hope for, I think. So I would have Liv Morgan win, really push her as a heel, just have her, don't slow burn this, just have her be an asshole right from the start here. I want her to cheat or do something dastardly or weird or sketchy on Raw to win the title. And then she can gloat, she can taunt Rhea Ripley, and she can be completely obnoxious with that title until Ripley comes back and just fucking takes it back from her. That's what I want to see happen. So I think maybe Liv Morgan, just trolling Rhea Ripley, and then you just book Rhea and Liv at SummerSlam and you book a squash. I'd be fine with that. It would be entertaining. So let's see if I'm right about that. I'm predicting Liv Morgan shoe-in to win that title on Monday night. Also, we saw Chad Gable lose in the main event of Raw this past week to Sami Zayn. That great Sami Zayn entrance. My God, one of the best things they've done all year. Just so amazing, coming from the outside of the arena, where Jay walks out, Sammy's waiting, looking up. They have that little moment. Sammy walks all through the arena with the music playing, hometown Montreal. So amazing. Production in WWE is just eons better than it was under Kevin Dunn. I cannot believe how well things have improved from that end of things. But the match was also good. Plus, it was a title match in the main event. Sami Zayn got the win. And as he's celebrating with his family, Chad Gable shows back up and turns heel. Now there is talk that he is probably going to be starting a heel faction with the Creed brothers. So I don't know if he's going to dump Otis, or if Otis is going to be a part of this, or if the Creeds are going to maybe dump Ivy Nile, or if she's going to be a part of this, what they're going to do there. But I think a heel group with those two guys would be good. It feels like the Creeds lost a little bit of steam there when they had that botch that injured Damian Priest. Remember, they land on his head or something. He was all pissed off. It feels like they've kind of got knocked down a peg after that, after they really came in hot. And it felt like they were the real deal. They've kind of been simmered down a little bit. So having Gable form a group with them, here we go again. All of these parallels and comparisons and similarities to Kurt Angle. Not only Gable's wrestling style, but his personality, his look. There's so much of Kurt Angle there. And now he's going to start a Team Angle, a Team Gable with the world's creedest tag team. Kind of feels like the same type of vibes there. So we'll see if they adopt a lot of what Angle did with Shelton and Haas back in the day. And I'm into that prospect of a heel group that's not a joke, that's not in the back making shakes and pancakes with the New Day, like a heel group that is actually formidable. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll see if that comes to be this week on Raw as well. Last night on SmackDown, we had some interesting things go down. As confirmed, this was not a match I was not even remotely conflicted about. AJ Styles did in fact beat LA Knight. You knew it was going to be him as soon as the AJ and LA Knight match was made last week, and the winner would face Cody. It has to be AJ. It has to be AJ. Can't be LA Knight. LA Knight's still over. He's still a babyface. You don't want to divide your audience. AJ and Cody, who I don't think have ever, had a one-on-one match. Is that right? For a championship in France on a pay-per-view main event. Oh my God. And what a great first opponent for Cody Rhodes to defeat, as he is now new world champion. I think that match is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. AJ was the guy to win that. They opened the show with that, right? And AJ got the win, so that was awesome. The Bloodline stuff was going on. We had Solo Sikoa showing up in the parking area, or I think Paul Heyman was waiting for him. He showed up in a suit. All of a sudden, Solo is talking now. He's no longer the silent enforcer. He's now like the leader of this group, the self-appointed leader of this group, showing up in a suit, acting like Roman Reigns, acting like he's in charge. It's pretty funny. Paul Heyman greets him, and Solo introduces Paul Heyman to his MFT, Tama Tonga, who kind of shows up from behind Paul Heyman, and Solo asks Heyman if Kevin Owens is in the arena, and Heyman's like, yeah, I think he is. He goes, well, I want you to take me to him then. And so Heyman then shows Solo and Tama where Kevin Owens is going to be, and they go to commercial. Now, I'm going to skip ahead to when they came back out in the ring, and then we'll backtrack and talk about those tag team titles. So later on, they then come out to the ring for a promo. So it's Solo and Heyman and Tama Tonga. And Heyman starts doing the talking first, but he's interrupted by Solo before he can say he's the advocate for the tribal chief or whatever. Solo grabs the mic, and he said that last week he had to lose a brother in order to find a new one in Tama Tonga. I think that's when he brought him out. I don't think Tama came out with them. I don't even remember I think he introduced him, and then Tama came out separately, right? When he said he had to get rid of one brother in order to find a new one. Oh, that's right. He wasn't in the ring with him. I forgot. It was just Solo and Heyman. And when he's introducing Tama Tonga, we don't see Tama Tonga first. We see Kevin Owens first, who comes flying through the stage area covered in blood. And Tama Tonga is just beating his ass all up the aisleway. And he's got blood on him. Now, I had watched this clip on YouTube. And normally what happens on WWE's YouTube channel whenever there's blood is they kind of go to black and white, or they kind of colorize it a little bit differently to where the blood is not so noticeable. I saw no such edits in this YouTube clip, so the blood stayed in. And that's another good sign that WWE's, they stop being pussies. We can expect sometimes to see some blood. We heard Rock cursing up a storm during WrestleMania season and stuff. And so the fact that Raw in WWE is going to be heading to Netflix in just a few months, they're going to be able to do whatever the fuck they want on Netflix. So this is kind of exciting that, some of that stuff is starting to trickle back in, to where sometimes you can see blood, sometimes you'll get an F-bomb. Awesome. That's the way life is. Sometimes there's a little blood, sometimes you say fuck. That's real life. So the fact that the blood was so visible, even in the YouTube video, I was very much a fan of. And Owens tries to fight back as Tom is kicking his ass all the way up the aisleway. He fights back and starts kicking the shit out of both guys, but they overwhelm him, and Solo ends up hitting him with a Samoan spike, which takes him out for good. And apparently one of the reasons why Kevin Owens was so bloody is because he was assaulted vehicularly by Tama Tonga, because they cut backstage to the parking lot where a furious Nick Aldis is with Paul Heyman, showing him two crashed rental cars that were T-boned. And he goes, that one belongs to Tama Tonga, that one belongs to Kevin Owens. And he says that not only, losing isn't the only thing that has consequences, and he threatened consequences in next week's draft. So I don't know what kind of hint they're dropping there, but Aldis says that, he is going to punish the bloodline using the draft to do so. So does that mean, do you guys think that he's going to split up Tama and Solo, or is he going to maybe draft Roman to Raw by himself? And then that's going to be the punishment. Roman, he's going to draft Roman to Raw, or Trey. Well, I guess he's not going to draft Roman to Raw because he's on SmackDown. So I don't know what consequences he could have if he's the one doing the drafting to SmackDown. He's not sending guys out. So I don't know what he's going to do, but if he does finagle something to get some sort of a big trade or get one key member of the bloodline out of there as punishment, that in theory could upset The Rock or Roman Reigns sitting at home watching all of this. Not sure yet, but the fact that Tama Tonga theoretically should be in jail for what he did to Kevin Owens last night. Not sure how that's going to translate out to next week, but we will see, because the draft does kick off on SmackDown next Friday night. So we'll see where people start landing. But I'm loving Nick Aldis as a GM. I really am, because he does not, even though shit goes down on his show, I like his I like his attitude, and I like the fact that he's not a pushover and he's not going to let people just get away with anything. I like that a lot. Now let's talk about more of Nick Aldis and Triple H. WWE, as expected, did unveil new tag team championships for the SmackDown tag team titles. Now, on Raw this past Monday, we got those new red World Tag Team Championship belts, the pizza belts, as people are calling them. They're round, and they kind of have a similar design to the women's and men's world championships on Raw. And they're going to be now known as not the Raw tag team titles, but the World Tag Team titles. And so that meant that on Friday, we were going to expect the same thing for the SmackDown titles. So Aldis and Triple H are out there. You've got belts on a podium that are covered up. They bring out A Clown Down Under with Theory and Waller. And, I should be noted too, as well, when Triple H was making his way to the ring, a QR code flashed on the screen. If you go to the QR code, it takes you to something else, that takes you to something else, that takes you to something else. So this is more teasing of whatever Uncle Howdy is going to be doing. And there are a lot of chatter, a lot of speculation that it's going to be something like the Wyatt Six, as we read the report that Eric Rowan was recently pulled from an indie event due to some contractual obligations, starting to sound like he's coming back in, and WWE has got some plans for, a Bray Wyatt tribute faction or character in some way. And a lot of this QR code stuff is reminiscent of the White Rabbit shit that we got a couple years ago or a year or so ago. And, but I didn't go through and go through the rabbit hole there. But apparently if you go to the QR code, it takes you to a video and another video, and there's some kind of like metallic Terminator 2 looking figure underneath the blue sky and clouds. I don't know what any of that shit means. I'm just going to wait till this starts happening on TV. But I don't have time to be scanning any QR codes because I'm usually working when SmackDown is airing. So that did happen while Triple H made his entrance. But back to the ring now. Waller and Theory are there. Triple H and Aldis are there. And they proceed to unveil what I believe are two gorgeous tag team championship belts. This is what I've always wanted. And thank you, by the way. Last night I was at work. I got tagged by a bunch of you in the photos of those new belts because I think a lot of you thought of me first when you saw those new tags. I've always been really pining for designs that were an homage or a nod to the designs that I grew up with. I hate that ugly IC title, and the WWE title. I would love for Cody to get a American Nightmare custom winged eagle. That would be great. And I've always hated the Raw and SmackDown red and blue tag team titles, that penny design that I think came around in like 2010 or whatever it was. And now we've had these two ugly ass belts that have been meaningless. And I was against splitting up the belts at WrestleMania, but I can appreciate WWE's attempt to differentiate the titles for them to look different. Also, not naming them after the brands they're on is a big help for drafting purposes. If you ever want to swap your titles, now you don't have to do any of that belt swapping shit, which was downright offensive to me. Every time they did one of those with the tags or the women's, I'm like, what are you guys doing? You're just purposely, on purpose, gumming up your entire legacy and your lineage to where the belts, the tag team belts that I grew up with, that the Hearts and the Bulldogs and Demolition carried, those belts don't even exist. That lineage ended in 2010. There's not even, you fucked up the belts so badly that you can't even trace them back any further than 2010. How fucked up is that? So now, yet another reset here. It's going to be kind of back to the way it was in 2002. The current Raw World Tag Team Championships, I guess, can technically be traced back to 2002 when they had those belts. And now these new championships on the SmackDown brand that do resemble the old titles from the 80s and 90s. That design is very, very much influenced in these new belts. And I love that. They're not obnoxious. Even the WWE logo isn't too obnoxious. It's all kind of gold. There's no like multiple layers of the colors or anything like that, or nothing that's brighter than anything else. It's just kind of all one shade of gold there on the black strap. And I love that. So I like these belts definitely more than the Raw belts, but these belts are so pretty and nice that they've almost made the world belts on Raw look more attractive, because now we know what the two belts look like. They can develop their own identities and divisions and whatnot. And, I think that's acceptable. Still not a fan of splitting them up. If it was up to me, the belts that they unveiled last night would have been presented to the one singular winning team of the ladder match at WrestleMania, and you keep the belts forever unified. But WWE has split them up. There's nothing I can do about that other than hope for the best. And so the fact that we have new championships now that aren't balls ugly as fuck and also aren't named after the brands and aren't painted red and painted blue, I'm about as satisfied as I could expect to be. Because WWE, when it comes to stuff like this, championship lineages, title belt designs, I am disappointed more often than I'm satisfied. So the fact that I can be satisfied with any belt situation or championship situation in WWE, that's a good day. So I like that the red and blue ones are gone. I like that these new ones are in and they've received new names. And now hopefully, these are the belts that can be and championship lineages that can be in place and cemented permanently as you move into this new era in WWE. And 5 years from now, where we haven't unified these things again and having another ladder match, you know what I mean? So let's just try to keep things clean and consistent is all I ask, but those are some pretty new belts. Fightful Select had some information on these new belts that they reported last night, and I quote, "The last we heard, the plan was to call them the WWE Tag Team titles instead of the SmackDown Tag Team titles, which has been confirmed. This helps prevent any issues regarding the draft and avoids any awkward trading of championships." I just bitched about that a minute ago. The current lineage of the SmackDown Tag Team titles goes back to when the brand split was reinstated in 2016. The set of titles on Raw go back to 2002, which were the set of titles established for the SmackDown brand back then. God, this is what I'm talking about. So the current titles that we saw unveiled on Raw can now be traced back to 2002, but those belts were established for SmackDown, and oh my God. And and like I said earlier, the lineage of the original WWF Tag Team titles from 1971 ended in 2010. So that's very sad that we no longer have championships that we can connect back to 1971, and there's really no reason why we shouldn't have. This all started because WCW was bought out. WWE tried to make Raw and SmackDown separate brands. Then you start creating more titles. Then you start gobbing up your own history, and you just fucked it all up. So it's their own fault that they even did this to begin with, and I wish they would have had their own history and their own future a little bit more in mind when making these decisions back in the day, because it made shit confusing now. But new era, WrestleMania 40 can be looked at as a WWE reset. We're into a new era in WWE, and hopefully now these tag team championship legacies and lineages can be a little bit more organized and consistent. That's always been very important to me. Right after the douchebags received their new tag team titles, they kind of dissed Triple H with a handshake. Aldis got in their face and said, "Don't you ever disrespect my boss again, or I'll fire a clown down." Basically just said he'll get him right the hell out of there. And also that they need to get serious and start paying attention, because up next is a number one contenders 4-way tag team match to determine the next challengers for those pretty new belts that they have. And that match was up next. And it was the Street Profits defeating New Catch Republic, Legado del Fantasma, and the Authors of Pain. Revelation on Angel Garza for the win. And the Streets are now number one contenders. And you know what? I'm just putting the belts on them. Make that match for Backlash. Well, now that there's 2 tag team championships, I'm not even sure if tag matches are going to be on every pay-per-view or not, but I would book Streets against Theory and Waller as soon as you can and just put the belts on the Street Profits. It's really weird how WWE's tag team division on both brands is relatively strong, yet 2 of your weakest teams are champions. So Street Profits winning those brand new belts, I think that would look great on them. And then, that faction's got a little gold to go with it. So hopefully the Streets will pick up the championships whenever that match happens against Grayson and Theory. Also, we had Santos Escobar defeating Carlito. We had Damage Control and Bianca and Jade up in the sky boxes, kind of like in adjacent boxes, kind of talking smack to each other. That was weird. And they were all up there to watch the main event women's championship match with Bayley defending against her good friend Naomi. Now, Naomi beat Tiffany Stratton last week to earn this opportunity, and this match ended in a DQ when Tiffy showed up and attacked both women, laid them both out, and the show closed with Tiffany Stratton standing tall over both beaten women. So that screams triple threat to me. I can't think of anything else they're going to do at Backlash other than that, since there was a DQ now. Naomi technically lost, but she lost because of Tiffany's interference. She didn't get a fair shake. I guess that's going to probably lead to a triple threat, although I don't know why Tiffany attacking the women and ruining a main event she would get rewarded with a title match at a pay-per-view for that. But Aldis, who knows, he might set something up for her on SmackDown next week where she wins a match or somehow worms her way into a championship match against Bayley, and they make it a triple threat. And that's another match that would be perfectly set up for Bayley to retain. I don't think she's going to be dropping that belt, at least for a little while. So any matches or title defenses that she has between now and probably SummerSlam, she's not going to be losing the belt. So you got to think of ways for her to win these matches. Triple threat opens up all sorts of fun possibilities for her to get the W. So we will be keeping our eye on that situation. And that's pretty much all that was worth discussing on last night's SmackDown. Appeared to be a pretty decent show for the most part. Another show that was pretty decent this week, if you're a wrestling fan, was Dynamite. My God, Dynamite had some fun shit on there. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we have to predict Dynasty, and a lot of what went on here is kind of obsolete anyway, based on what we're about to be predicting here. But I did like the Moxley promo. It's great to see him returning back to Dynamite now as the current IWGP champion, as he did win that over Naito last week. So he's in there with the New Japan Divas title, that I call it anyway, and he calls out the Don Callis family, and more specifically, Don Callis calling him a creep, feeding his people lies, and decides to pick the biggest, baddest one of the Callis family and challenge him to a match next week in the main event of Dynamite, Powerhouse Hobbs. So they basically set that up. I thought he was going to call him out for Dynasty. When he said Dynamite, I'm like, oh, good. I'd actually rather see that match on Dynamite than Dynasty. Dynasty's already fucking stacked. So that'll be next week. I got a kick out of the mixed tag. We had little Julia Hart, and gigantic Brody Lee taking on BFFs Adam Copeland and Willow Nightingale. This was all kinds of fun. Watching Willow do that rolling senton thing into Brody Lee was great. She wound up getting knocked out in the face with a chain that Julia had wrapped around her hand, and then Adam Copeland took out Brody King, and that allowed Julia to lock Willow into her submission, and the referee called for the bell because Willow was unconscious. Mercedes Moné came out there to make the save and run off Julia Hart. So Mercedes Moné still not planning to wrestle until Double or Nothing, and that's a lot of time. I'm wondering if they're just going to turn her heel by then, because I feel like Willow is going to win the TBS title, and then Mercedes is going to win it from Willow, and Willow is about as baby face as you can get. You know what I mean? I mean, you talk about a happy, positive, character. That is Willow. So I feel like Mercedes going heel is almost the best way to do it, since there's so much history there. And I feel like that's what I would do. I would make Mercedes a heel. I just don't think it's really going to work out with her as a babyface in that company right now. I think she'd be much, much better as a heel, to be honest. So we'll see if that all comes to be by the time we get to Double or Nothing. Super fun match of the week in my mind, Will Ospreay and Claudio. Oh, saw that one on paper. I'm like, oh, that's sexy right there. That's a sexy match. And it was really, really fun. Crowd loved it. I thought the crowd excitement was pretty high this week. I like it. The smaller the arena, the better in my mind for AEW, because the smaller the arena, the more packed it looks. We used to say the same thing back in 2018, 2019. I did whole videos about this. I did a couple of mic drops about this when we were all tweeting the hard cam pics in WWE, remember? Pictures of Becky Lynch talking to a whole empty section there because that's where the camera is. And I started saying, because at the time, the product sucked and the fans, it was tough to get them engaged and a lot of boring chants and things like that. I'm like, if WWE just stopped booking these giant buildings and went to smaller arenas the way they did in like the mid 90s there when business went down, Raws and the Raw tapings and stuff were taking place in really small arenas. And, you thought back to ECW, the way they would just pack 1,000 people, into an arena, and the electricity and, would be off the charts. So I always thought WWE should do the same thing, back in the day, but they had relationships with all these big arenas, and now their business has recovered to where they're selling out all these arenas. So no problem there. But in AEW, they can sometimes book larger arenas that are half full. And I think when you have a smaller, more intimate building that might only hold 5 to 10,000 people, then you can fill it up. Then, it looks much better on TV. The crowd is more enthused, and it just has a better product presentation. And I felt like we got a little bit of that on this week's Dynamite. Had some of their old vibes, you know what I mean? And the Claudio and Ospreay match was so much fun. Loved it. Ospreay obviously got the win here after the match. The Callis family continued to attack Claudio, but Ospreay doesn't really partake. By this point, he's out of the ring. Moxley comes out to make the save and to run off Hobbs. So it sounds like they're really taking their time to get Ospreay out of the Callis family. I feel like that's got to happen, really soon here. Maybe we get that fully taking place tomorrow. When Ospreay faces Danielson, maybe he wins and we get the same thing happening, like he beat Claudio here, Callis family attacks. Maybe he beats Danielson, Callis family attacks. Ospreay doesn't like that and finally, breaks away from them for good. And maybe we get a little show of respect or something like that between Danielson and Will Ospreay. And, then Ospreay can move on to a feud and start knocking off all these Callis family members one at a time, or maybe even come out and make the save for Moxley on Wednesday when he faces Hobbs. And you're going to have Takeshita and whatnot out there jumping in. And then maybe Ospreay can come in and help out Moxley, and you can have Ospreay and Moxley kind of standing side by side. I think that would be kind of a cool visual there. But just seeing Ospreay and Claudio on paper and advertised for Wednesday, I was like, ooh, that's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot of fun. Also, sounds like Chris Jericho is basically just parroting CM Punk. This is just a parody of the CM Punk belief that he's a learning tree, and this, these stories that we heard about offering advice and people not wanting advice or not wanting to take his advice. And Jericho has applied for all of these recent trademarks like the rarefied air of Jericho and all this stupid shit. I've been very, very much disinterested in anything Jericho has been doing, even with Hook, the whole Lionheart, shit with Jericho and teaming up with Hook. And then I want to team with you. Then I want to wrestle you. And now I want to offer you my, my knowledge and to teach you and be a coach to you and a mentor, even though his dad is fucking Taz and he's got all the mentoring he needs right there. But now that this seems to be a very, very over the top parody of CM Punk, that's fine. And Jericho's done a lot of things in his career that I have found very funny and very entertaining. This just isn't hitting to me. Hook, Jericho, when he's talking to Hook there, he's kind of hitting him with passive aggressive little insults there. Finally, Hook gets a little bit mad, gets in Jericho's face. Jericho even shoves Taz down at one point. So the whole thing was just a little bit weird. And I guess, if Jericho's really going to make this a thing, and his whole entire newest gimmick is going to be some sort of a parody on the backstage behavior of Punk, that's fine. As long as it's funny, it's fine. As long as it's funny, it's entertaining, it's fine. But all you're doing is just continuing to draw attention to the other guys. And somebody like Jericho should just be a bit smarter than that. But I'm fine with anything provided it's entertaining. If this were to get over and somehow find something that fans really latch onto, I'm like, oh, this is great. Can't wait to see what they do next week. Then I'll get totally behind it. But right now, I feel like it's just a lot of just Jericho being Jericho, and I'm kind of getting sick of that guy. So we'll see what the future holds for Jericho and Hook, and if this leads to another match. And we did hear the rumors and reports not long ago about Hook apparently intending on testing the free agent market when his contract comes up. So if Hook were to go to WWE, they grabbed him and stuck him in that performance center and built a world-class athlete out of him. I think Daddy Taz might not be too far behind, and we're going to get a Cole and Taz reunion on SmackDown one day. So we'll see. So if that happens, maybe Jericho and Hook have a loser leaves town match or something like that. And since Taz got shoved down by Jericho, Taz has got a bad knee. I don't think he's in ring shape, but maybe Taz could get involved in a match between Hook and Jericho and just put a Taz mission on Jericho for a couple of seconds. That might be a little bit fun. We will see. But not much to say about that situation other than Jericho just seems to be trying and attempting to have a little bit of fun at CM Punk's expense. And then also we had the big setup for Dynasty's main event. Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland were brawling. We had a sit-down interview with Renee as well earlier in the show, and the show concluded with Samoa Joe and Swerve brawling with each other, and Joe did, in fact, as I predicted, left Swerve laying to close out Dynamite. I said after the previous week, after Swerve got him some of Joe, I'm like, the go-home show needs to be Joe standing tall in order to bode well for Swerve winning the title at Dynasty tomorrow, which I think he's gonna. So that's how Dynamite kind of ended. Thought it was a solid Dynamite on Wednesday. I thought SmackDown was a solid SmackDown on last night, and Raw was a very solid show. The Rhea Ripley stuff, of course, was heartbreaking, but that main event, that Sami Zayn moment, and a lot of other things we saw on Raw were really solid. So when you look at the three shows, Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown, very little to bitch about. That's why all you crazies online with, timelines full of hate and bitching. Boy, you see that Forbes article came out that ranked like WWE, UFC, and AEW? Boy, people so butthurt. What? You ranked them that high? I'm like, just chill. This is the time. This is the shit you have time for? Getting mad at a Forbes article because a company that you obsessively hate was valued higher than you, someone with no business knowledge whatsoever, feel like it should be. Shit was ever. I didn't even engage in that. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, boy, you're going Bischoff with a baseball bat all the way up his ass about this thing. I'm like, why are we mad? Why are things like this so infuriating to people? Why the fuck would you even care when your hate is so great, that it sends you into a rage over a fucking business article ranking the valuations of combat sports companies, and AEW is just a little too high for you? Get a life. Walmart, aisle 7, lives. They should be on sale. Pick up 2 in case you lose your first one. My God. Anyway, just had to get that out there. Here's what we're going to see on Collision and Rampage tonight. On Collision, you're going to see Danielson and Claudio taking on Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. That'll be good. We got the Elite taking on FTR and Pac, so it'll be the Bucks and Okada versus FTR and Pac. Damn, that's nice too. Here's a team I love. Cope, Eddie, and Mark Briscoe. Jesus Christ, man. That is a trio of crazy going up against Top Flight and Action Andretti. We got the Acclaim taking on the Gun or the Ass Boys and Sky Blue versus Layla Hirsch. Then on Rampage, you're going to see Yuka Sakazaki taking on Emi Sakura, RVD versus Lee Moriarty, I think, versus Isaiah Cassidy and Commander. I think that's a 4-way. You've got Kyle O'Reilly, Rocky Romero, and Daddy Magic taking on Undisputed Kingdom as well. So big three-hour block of wrestling. And honestly, guys, a couple of those matches look fun as fuck, especially on Collision. So if you are lucky enough to enjoy Collision tonight, enjoy. Looks like it's going to be a fun one. Maybe not so much with Rampage, but Collision definitely looks solid. All right, and that leaves us with Dynasty predictions. Time to predict these matches right now. But before I do, let me knock out a couple of more comments here in the chat that I see from you guys. Man, Spectra, my boy, 20 months. It's coming up on 2 years, and I'm working on membership updates. I promise. I really, really am. I'm a busy feller, but I swear I am working on that. And we are well over 100 members now on the channel. I appreciate that. Thank you for signing up, and thank you for so many of you who have been with us now for nearly 2 years as a channel member. Spectra, always happy to see you. Holy cow, 20 months. I just want to say thank you for always being a calm person, Greg. I've seen so much tribalism that it's been disgusting. When Mox won the belt, there was so many alcoholic blood comments. Mike, just fucking ignore them. Useless fucking turds, gutless turds, as they say in the Breakfast Club. That's all they are. You see these people with timelines of hate, Tony Khan obsessions, AEW obsessions, gutless turds, womanless, friendless, lonely trolls. That's all they are. Because if you're happy in life, you don't do that. So it tells you all you need to know. Thank you, Juliet, for your $2 as well. Always good to see you in here. Logan Paul, now WWE's current longest title holder. Jesus Christ. That's nuts, man. Yeah, we just lost two big ones in Rhea Ripley and Roman Reigns, just within a few days of each other. And Seth Rollins. Holy crap. Yeah. Logan Paul is the longest running champion currently in WWE right now. Wow. Wow, wow. Blair Hathaway, good to see you. What would be my wrestling name? I don't know. I haven't thought about that. JJ Leg, appreciate $2 from you. Going to Dynasty tomorrow. Long day and ready for it. Why do I not know where Dynasty is? Why do I not know where the venue is for Dynasty? I don't even know where it's, what city it's in. Why do I not know this? I have no idea. Tell me in the chat while we load up these predictions here. Now, when I wrote down these predictions earlier, I purposely spent very little time on each one. I kind of just went with my instinct here and didn't try to break them down too much because I want to see how I do. Because you guys have been watching me do predictions for years. I do great on them, don't I? I always do very solid. I'm perfect lots of times. Most of the time, I miss one or two matches. I'm very rarely like half and half. I have a bad outing every now and then where I get like 4 or 5 matches wrong, but for the most part, I have a phenomenal record with my predictions. So on these, instead of thinking about them, I just want to kind of go with my gut instinct. And that's kind of how I did it here. And I like the way it looks. I feel like it's very balanced with heels and faces, with title changes and people retaining their titles. I think it's relatively balanced. So here's what I have. Let's start with Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe. I love that team. I just love saying that out loud because those are 3 hilarious personalities, teaming hilarious and also very, very different personalities, all converging to form one super crazy team. I like that. So they're taking on the House of Black. I'm going with the faces, man. I'm going with Edge, Eddie, and Mark. That's who I want to see. I want to see Kingston, Briscoe, and Cope get the win over House of Black here. Going to be cool to see Adam Copeland and Malachi Black in the ring together, right? I feel like that's kind of a half-assed dream match here. And apparently Malachi Black, he just refuses to work one-on-one in AEW. He hasn't worked any one-on-one matches at all. He just works tags, and I think he just wants to get the fuck out of there is what he wants. But having him in the same ring as Adam Copeland is awesome. That's going to be fun to watch tomorrow. Also, I did not write down any 0 hour shit. If anybody has that information, let me know because I don't know about the 0 hour. I only have these matches. Oh, St. Louis. Okay. St. Louis. Oh, Gunther. Oh, yeah, Gunther. Thank you, Juliet. So, yeah, Gunther, Seth, Rhea, and Roman. Holy shit. A lot of folks did drop their titles, didn't they? Didn't even think about that. Right on. St. Louis. When we talked about WrestleMania locations yesterday, St. Louis is another town I kind of left out. I didn't mention them as a possibility, but that's another spot that could be a home to a WrestleMania if they want to throw it in their Arrowhead or whatever. Or not Arrowhead. What the fuck is in St. Louis? Y'all got a building? Y'all got a big ass building? Put it in there. Whatever y'all got. Juliet, thank you for gifting out that membership to our friend Jay Lambo. You couldn't have picked a better person to hook up because Jay Lambo's the best. Thank you as always for that, Juliet. You are awesome. All right, so we started with Edge, Eddie, and Mark beating House of Black. That's who I've predicted there. Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson. I'm going Ospreay. I think that's going to be a really fun match, but I think Danielson will put him over. I think that maybe they're going to do something with Callis family like we saw on Wednesday with maybe them jumping Danielson after the match and Will Ospreay taking exception to that, and maybe that's going to be his official exit from the Callis family, and maybe there's even a moment where Ospreay and Danielson kind of stand together, and maybe Ospreay even helps out Moxley on Dynamite in his match with Hobbs on Wednesday if the Callis family interferes there. So I would use this as a way to get Ospreay officially out of the Callis family if I could. All this association with the BCC, though, he might join them. He might join the Blackpool Combat Club, but I don't think really Ospreay needs to join anybody. I think he's strong enough to run on his own as a top contender in the company. And him and Danielson, Danielson's in his last leg of his career. Ospreay, is, on the rise and going to be one of AEW's top stars for the next several years to come. You got to go Ospreay on this one. So I think Ospreay is going to beat Bryan Danielson in what should be a wicked fun match. I'm probably looking forward to that one more than any other match, to be honest, on the show, because I love Danielson and I love Ospreay. We are getting that Ring of Honor and AEW Trio Tag Team Championship unification match, right? So both belts are on the line here. Am I right? It's going to be the Acclaimed versus Bullet Club Gold. So I guess it's going to be the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass, right? It's going to be the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn against Bullet Club Gold. I'm going Bullet Club Gold. I kind of want to see them win it. I think it's time to, I don't know, maybe wind down this Acclaimed and Billy Gunn stuff. I really don't know. I didn't think about this match very much. I just put BG Gold as my winners here, and I'm going to stick with that. I feel like they're going to unify those trios titles. Let me know if you think I'm wrong on any of these. AEW International Championship match. Roderick Strong defending against Kyle O'Reilly. Here's one that I think I've predicted wrong, but I said it last night. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have fun with this. Let's go, Kyle. Let's go, Kyle. I know Roderick just won the title. Dropping it right away to Kyle, I feel like Roderick, with the help of Undisputed Kingdom, can find a way to steal a victory and retain his title or get disqualified or do something sketchy to save himself. I feel like that's more likely going to happen. I feel like that's more likely of an option than Kyle O'Reilly winning the title. But I'm going to pick the upset here. I'm going to pick the shocker, and I'm going to pick Kyle O'Reilly to win the International Championship from Roderick Strong. Why not? What can it hurt? AEW Continental Classic Championship, or I'm sorry, AEW Continental Championship match. Kazuchika Okada defending against Pac. Okada. So that will be your one person retaining their title on this show. I think that match is going to be fun and it's going to be great. I just can't really see Pac winning, especially since Okada just got the title and they're building the Elite. And I think the Elite are going to be looking pretty golden by the end of the show, if you know what I mean. And that brings us to our next match. AEW World Tag Team Title ladder match to crown the new tag team champions as the belts were relinquished when Sting retired. They set up the tournament specifically, in my mind, for the Bucks to win, and having FTR on the opposite end of the bracket set up a great finals here, and then they kind of threw us a curveball, making it a ladder match just like a week or two ago, adding that little stipulation. In this match, I mean, granted, it would be fun if FTR just won again, but the Bucks are going to win this one, and I have a strong suspicion that Jack Perry, the scapegoat, is going to appear and help them win. So he's going to be spotted in St. Louis. It's going to be hard to not see him around that area, I guess. But if it can be kept under wraps and have him just show up, come out from under the ring or run down or whatever and interfere and help the Bucks win and join the Elite, I feel like that's the likely scenario here for this ladder match. So I'm going to pick the Young Bucks to win, which I do think is the right choice. This new gimmick, these new characters, these EVP douchebags are being portrayed relatively solidly by these two guys. I think Nick is, to me, is more entertaining than Matt. Matt, I never really enjoyed listening to in promos and interviews too much, but it's better like this character that they have now. They kind of have evened out a little bit more, where I always thought that Nick was by far the more entertaining one. But now, since they're both douchebags and they do a really good job of portraying douchebags, or they're just being themselves, whatever the case may be, I have find them a little bit more on equal level in terms of how they entertain me with their characters and their personas and whatnot. But I think I prefer FTR maybe overall as a tag team, but I want the Bucks to win because I think that's the right thing to do for their storyline for the Elite. And if Jack Perry helps them out, all the better. Even more heat, boos are going to be raining down hard on that arena. And having the Bucks and Jungle Jack along with Okada could be a pretty sexy looking faction there going forward. So the Bucks all the way in that tag team match. AEW TBS title on the line. Julia Hart defending against Willow Nightingale. Got to go Willow on this. Again, you do the math there on the go home show with Julia choking out, bashing Willow in the face with a chain first, and then tapping her out or submitting her in her submission, getting the win there. plus Willow and Mercedes setting up their issue slowly but surely. They already have history from a year ago with Willow beating Mercedes for the New Japan Strong deal. So they're building up, I believe, a Willow and Mercedes match at Double or Nothing for the championship. In order to get there, Willow needs to win the title. So I think Willow will beat Julia Hart. Julia Hart's been a great little TBS champion. Really like Julia Hart and her progression as a character, but now it's probably going to be Willow and Mercedes time. So I think Willow will get the win there. And I'm curious if it is going to be Willow and Mercedes, how they justify giving Mercedes a title match at Double or Nothing when she's never wrestled in the company before. I guess just her star power affords her certain liberties that others don't get. I don't know. We'll see how they put that together, but I don't think that's going to bode well for Mercedes as a babyface character, which is why I think by the time we get to Double or Nothing, a heel turn should be in the works for Mercedes. So I'm going to predict Willow to beat Julia Hart and become the new AEW TBS champion. AEW Women's World Championship match. Title on the line here. Toni Storm defending against Thunder Rosa. Great to see Thunder Rosa back on TV. Great to see her back involved. We missed her. It was a long time out there. The women's division has changed so much too since she was gone. There was all the drama and then when she was there before. The relationship with Britt Baker. And Britt Baker has been, largely absent from TV for God knows how long now. Maybe she's just going to be sitting out until Adam Cole comes back. And his progress is not going well, apparently, either. And he's no closer to come back. There's no real big timetable for his return either. It's probably going to be a while. So having Thunder Rosa back is great. Happy about that. Would love to predict her to win the title here because as much as I like Toni Storm in this gimmick, I'm almost thinking it might be time to take the title off of her. But I feel like with Willow winning the TBS title, or at least me predicting her to, I feel like that should be left on its own, and then Toni should find a way to retain here. So I would just find a way for Toni Storm to retain with some help from Luther or whoever, or pull some shenanigans, pull a fast one, retain her title, and then maybe even have a rematch with Thunder Rosa at Double or Nothing, or, maybe even on TV if you want. And you can still have Thunder Rosa be the one to take the title off of Toni Storm if you would like. That would also be perfectly fine. I just don't think it's going to happen at Dynasty. I think Toni Storm and Kazuchika Okada are going to be the only two people to retain their titles, which means the AEW World Championship match, Samoa Joe defending against Swerve Strickland, is going to end with a title change. I'm predicting Swerve Strickland to beat Samoa Joe. I would put the belt on Swerve here. I would try to make a star. I would try to capitalize on one of WWE's releases, a guy that was very upset about that, had no intention of going back, and even when they contacted him to go back, he told on him and ratted him out to Tony Khan. He seems like he's there and desperate and determined, I should say, to make a point to be successful without WWE. He has been building momentum. He had some great programs last year. I loved that coffin match he was in with Darby and Sting at All In, the Hangman Page stuff, him developing from a heel into a babyface now. Now he's set up, had the three-way at the last pay-per-view that didn't pan out. Now it's one-on-one. Brand new pay-per-view, first AEW Dynasty in its history. A lot of firsts here. The first AEW Dynasty being headlined by you crowning your first ever Black World Champion. That's two birds right there, man, and that will really cement Dynasty as an important show in your history. On the very first one, Swerve became a main eventer, got on the map, and went down in your record books as your first Black World Champion. And I can't think of a better candidate for that than Swerve in terms of what he offers, what he brings, his work, his charisma, his character. Everything is primed and ready, I think, to be world champion. So I would do it here. Before, knock on wood, you run the risk of perhaps an aging Samoa Joe getting hurt. I would hate to see yet another championship in AEW have to be forfeited. And Samoa Joe has done amazing work as champion since winning the belt. I think he's been a great AEW champion. He's been a fucking badass. And I think Joe is a true locker room leader in that respect. But at the end of the day, Swerve is ready. And to argue against this, oh, keep the belt on Joe. Okay, well then for how long? Then when is he going to drop it? Then what, do another match with Swerve Strickland at Double or Nothing and have him win there? I guess you could do that if you wanted, but I feel like the win would be sweeter at Dynasty. And then if you don't have Swerve win and Joe wins and then Swerve is what, just out of the title picture? It feels like all signs are pointing to Swerve. The Magic 8 Ball should be telling you it's definite. Swerve, I believe, will beat Samoa Joe tomorrow and win the AEW World Championship, and I think he should, and I hope he does. So there you have it. There are my AEW Dynasty predictions. Copeland, Eddie, and Briscoe over the House of Black, Ospreay over Bryan Danielson, BG Gold unifying the trios, Kyle O'Reilly with the upset title win over Roderick Strong, Okada retaining his Continental Championship over Pac, the Bucks winning that ladder match to become the new AEW Tag Team Champions, Willow Nightingale to defeat Julia Hart to become the new TBS Champion, Toni Storm to retain over Thunder Rosa, and Swerve Strickland to win the AEW World Championship, defeating Samoa Joe. There is your recap. The Juliet has got... There's my chat discontinued. What the hell went on there? Successfully connected. I don't know what happened there. The Juliet says that Julia loses and Tony retains. Okay, so you've got those flipped. Okay. Whose house? I hear you, man. It's definitely going to be Swerve's house tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good day for Swerve. That's for sure. All right, I think I have luckily reached the end of my notes here, which is good that we were able to get all that out in the allotted time here. Let's see what else you guys are saying about this stuff. Main event of WrestleMania 45, MJF versus Ricky Starks. I could see both those guys in WWE main eventing a WrestleMania together. No, that seems like a stretch. That's only 5 years away. That's a stretch. But I do think we could see MJF in the WWE at some point. Yeah, the Juliet, Mariah May will interfere. That's why I think that Toni Storm will retain. I think Mariah May will have some help, or she'll have some help from Mariah May or Luther or somebody. Yeah, I'm going with the Bang Bang Gang 2 with those titles. We'll see how I do. Jason 12, the Bloodline stuff seems flat to me. Well, this definitely is a discount Bloodline. We got Roman gone. Jimmy Uso's kicked out of the Bloodline. Solo is now trying to be the wannabe leader of the Bloodline. You got a new face of the Bloodline that a lot of fans aren't familiar with in Tama Tonga. No Rock on the show, no Bloodline. When you think about where the Bloodline was 2 weeks ago compared to now, yeah, it's going to feel flat. But I think this is all part of another extension of that story, you know, a spin-off, if you will. And then when Rock and Roman come back into the fold later on in the year, or as we start building to WrestleMania 41 next year, who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, we are in that, you know, that time period now where they're going to be developing the story going on with Heyman and Solo and Tama. And I'm sure Jimmy and Jay might still be a part of this as well. And we'll see where Jimmy winds up landing in the draft. You know what I mean? It's very possible that he gets drafted to Raw, possibly to reunite with Jey Uso. Another thing I'm curious about under the Triple H era, now that he is fully in charge, is that I'm hoping that the draft isn't stupid. You know, I'm hoping you've got Aldis and Pierce both kind of present. I liked it back in the day. Remember back in the day when they had the shit on the stage and it was like Bischoff and Heyman and they came out and announced their picks or drew them out of a hat randomly. Maybe that's how it works, the draft, if it's randomized or what. But what I don't want them to do is the lazy shit they used to do where all of the pictures of the wrestlers would just flash on the screen and then it would just stop like it's a fucking episode of Press Your Luck or something. And all that was is them digitalizing their decisions to us. Hey, here's what we decided backstage and now we're going to just flash it up on the screen. It was lazy. The drafts were so lazy and infuriating. So I hope that Triple H tries to make it, you know, kind of like legit, even though it's not legit, but give it a legitimate vibe. You know, maybe have, cuts to the back to see, Nick Aldis and Pierce with a respective committee, talking around a table about who to draft, and then giving the word for somebody to run out and announce it to the crowd. Something like that. Just something where it's not the revolving images of the wrestlers and it just stops on one. That is so lazy, and I hated that so much. So I'm actually curious how the draft is going to look under Triple H, and if they're going to try to make it less stupid than it's been in the past. And we'll see what kind of rules they have in terms of factions being drafted together or whatnot. At least now you've avoided, if you want to switch up your championships, now you can, you don't have to worry about doing belt swapping. Cody might be sent back to Raw. Cody might be drafted to Raw. If Raw gets the first pick, wouldn't you think they would just draft Cody? I kind of think they would. I think whoever gets the first pick would probably draft Cody, unless like The Rock and Roman, The Rock's involved in the draft too. Can you draft The Rock? That type of stuff. So we'll see how it all shakes out, but I feel like they might. I don't know if they're going to swap out the belts. I don't know if they're going to keep, Priest and Rhea's, well, not Rhea's, but the current belts on Raw, or if they're going to start switching them up yet. I don't know, because if they kind of want to keep the belts on the shows, at least for the first draft, to kind of all have the same look, then Priest should stay on Raw. Those tag belts they unveiled on Monday should stay on Raw. It'd be really weird to unveil the Raw and SmackDown, or the WWE and World Tag Team titles on Raw and SmackDown this week, only to immediately swap them. So I feel like the tag belts will stay. And I feel like the world champions will probably stay. I think Priest will stay on Raw. Cody will go to SmackDown. That's the way it's probably going to be drafted. Unless champions are exempt. That could be another thing they decide to do, is have Cody on SmackDown and Priest on Raw, and they're not draftable. And then maybe you swap the US and IC. I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine sending Sammy to SmackDown and Logan Paul to Raw. Sure. Now, Sammy, it's going to be hard. I mean, I don't know if he's going to continue his angle with Gable or what, but, if Gable is going to start a heel faction, just getting Sammy out of there completely would end that issue. Sammy could then go to SmackDown and then have some more bloodline tie-ins again. Plus, he would be there with Cody. I think the draft will be fun. We'll talk about that maybe this week, maybe on Monday. This coming Monday, when we do our Raw review, we'll do some like mock draft ideas and shit and try to think about who we might see go where. I'll try to prepare some of that chatter for Monday night when we're up here for the review. We'll talk about the draft and who we might see land where. So stay tuned for that. Yo, Stephen Harris, good to see you. I don't know what the Coronet Shatter's about. I don't care. Right on. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I think that's it. I just wanted to read through some of those comments, see if you guys had anything interesting to add to this, but I think that's about it. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. It was fun. Thanks for coming up at a really weird time. 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific is a weird time to come up here for a podcast, especially when it's usually 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. So thank you for always being aware, for setting those notifications. That's always really important, because sometimes Saturdays can get a little weird and I have to come up at a kind of an oddball time. So thank you for your patience. Join us tomorrow for the AEW Dynasty watch party and review. The link is up on the channel right now, so make sure you are here tomorrow for that. And you're going to get me Monday night as well for our Raw review, so it's going to be a whole lot of Greg. And make sure you check out yesterday's mic drop on WrestleMania 41 and future locations. So you got some content available to you. If you miss me while I'm gone, check out those videos and make sure you're here tomorrow night to hang out and watch Dynasty together. It should be a hoot. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday night. Enjoy Collision and Rampage, and I'll be catching you tomorrow. Peace.